We're at Integrity Farms to talk about the Rapid Mastitis Test, also known in other parts of the world as the California Mastitis Test. This is a test to use on cows' quarters to identify subclinical mastitis, which is mastitis that can't be seen to the naked eye. It's measuring inflammation or infection in each quarter. The solution that's used lyses white blood cells, which are the cells that come in to fight the infection, and causes a reaction. When you're actually going to RMT cows, whether it's cows that have just calved or if you're doing the whole herd, it's really important you're wearing gloves so you minimize transmission of bacteria between cows. It's also really important that you disinfect your gloves between cows and also disinfect the paddle that you're going to use to do the RMT between each cow, because you don't want residual milk in that paddle perhaps causing a false reaction to the next cow. So what I do when I do an RMT, discard the first few strips of milk, and then 6 to 8 squirts in each well. Once you get the paddle away from the cow, you tip the paddle to ensure that there's an equal amount of milk in each well. Then add an equal amount of solution and gently swirl. You need to swirl for a minimum of 10 seconds. If you don't do it for long enough, you may miss some reactions. And I gently rock it back and forth to look for any gelling or glugging of the milk and the solution together. And in this case, this cow has nothing, and she has got obviously very low cell count. So there you go. We've identified a quarter with a real high cell count. It's congealed and gluggy. When it's tipping out, you can see it comes out like goo instead of like water. When a positive quarter is identified, most farmers will mark it with a spray of some sort, and action will be taken, whether it's to take a sample or to hold her out of supply and keep checking that quarter until the cell count comes down. The important thing is that it's consistent and everybody on the farm knows what that mark means. So the tactical times to use the RMT. One is before cows go into supply at calving. You don't want to put any cows in supply with a high cell count because that can make you have a cell count grade. So they should be RMT tested before they go into supply. Another time to use it is if you're having a high cell count in your bulk tank and you're not going to do a herd test because you don't have enough cows in supply for it to be worthwhile. You would want to go through an RMT every single cow in the herd to identify those that have very high cell counts and remove them from supply so you can continue to supply milk that's below 400,000. And another tactical way to use the RMT is after you herd test to identify which quarters are infected, because the herd test only tells you that a cow has a high cell count, not which quarter has a high cell count. And then you can address the quarter with a culture to determine what to do next with it. A fourth use for the RMT is at dry off to determine which quarters you want to treat with dry cow therapy and which quarters you're not going to treat with dry cow therapy. When you have a high cell count, it's helpful to strip the herd if you think you've got clinical cases that you've missed. But if you don't have any clinical cases and your filter stock is clean, the best method is to either do an RMT of the whole herd or do a herd test and then RMT the positive cows to find the infected quarters. There are other technologies available that identify subclinical mastitis or claim to identify subclinical mastitis. Most commonly used is conductivity. They're not very sensitive to high cell count, and they're not nearly as accurate as an RMT in identifying cows with high cell counts. Logan's done a really, really good job on disinfecting the teat. I put that teat in my mouth. That's how clean it is.